Most men don't fail loudly. They fail silently. They lower expectations after every try. They blame burnout. They convince themselves they're just being realistic when they lower their expectations. And eventually, they stop questioning the one thing that actually caused the failure: their discipline. And here's the part nobody warns you about. If you don't solve this now, it doesn't stay neutral. That gap between who you want to be and what you actually do turns into resentment, then bitterness, then quiet self-disrespect. Years later, men don't ask, "What if I tried harder?" They ask, "Where did my edge go?" Have you ever noticed how some people want to achieve great things, but can't even bring themselves to finish what they planned for that day? Not because the goal is impossible, not because the opportunity isn't there, but because somewhere between intention and action, something breaks. They wake up with ambition, they go to sleep with excuses, and day after day that gap quietly widens. Motivation was never the problem. The problem is that they never built something that could survive boredom, stress, or resistance. Zen monks sit for hours facing a blank wall. No stimulation, just them and their impulses. This is discipline in its raw format. And if you've ever looked at your own goals and wondered how you keep ending up in the same place, then listen carefully and apply what you are about to hear. Don't let this be just another motivational audio you have listened to and forgotten. Because this isn't about dreaming smaller. It's about understanding why discipline collapses the moment it's actually required. I will give you a brief rundown of what you will hear in this session for those who can't stay for long. I want you to walk away with something that will help you. Discipline is a contract, not a mood. Remove choice, install defaults. Win the first 10 minutes. Make disobedience expensive. Protect your focus like territory. Starve the negotiator. Discipline is identity enforcement. Silence builds authority, even over yourself. We will get to these rules later, but first, let's do what most men never do. Let's pressure test your discipline. Because discipline that only works when life is calm is not discipline, it's mood. Pressure test. The 3 moments discipline dies and the counter move. Moment 1, boredom. Boredom is deadly because it doesn't feel like danger. It feels harmless. It says, just relax, just drift, just take the easy path. And then quietly, boredom becomes a lifestyle. Weeks pass, months pass, your ambition becomes a memory. Counter move, the minimum viable action. When bored, you do the smallest version of the mission, not because you're inspired, but because you refuse to break the contract. Boredom is defeated by routine, not by intensity. Moment 2, stress. Stress is when your nervous system demands relief. It begs for dopamine. It begs for comfort. It begs for escape. And many men respond the same way every time. Food, scrolling, substances, avoidance, anger. Stress makes them predictable. Counter move, the reset protocol. You interrupt the spiral with a short physical reset. Water, breath, movement, silence. Then you return to one task, not 10 tasks. One task. Stress wants chaos. Sigma discipline answers with order. Moment 3, social interference. This is the hidden killer. People will test your discipline, not always maliciously. Sometimes they just want access. Sometimes they want entertainment. Sometimes your improvement makes them uncomfortable. They will invite you back to your old self through jokes, pressure, guilt, or subtle disrespect. Counter move, borders. You say no without speeches. You protect the schedule without explaining. You don't need permission to become disciplined. You need standards. If any of those moments felt personal, that's good. That means you're seeing the battlefield clearly. And now we move into the deepest rules, where discipline becomes identity. All right, let's dive deep into the psyche that has been making us fail for years. And remember this, discipline the mind and the body will follow. Rule 1, discipline is a contract, not a mood. Most men speak to themselves like they're negotiating with a child. I'll do it tomorrow. I deserve a break. I'm not in the headspace. And they think that inner dialogue is harmless. It's not. Every time you make a promise and break it, you teach your nervous system one lesson. Your words mean nothing. That is not just a productivity issue. That is a self-respect collapse. Sigma discipline begins when you stop treating your feelings like a leader. Your feelings are weather. Your contract is law. If you only show up when the sky is blue, you are not disciplined. You are lucky. And luck is not a strategy. This is why disciplined men look cold to emotional people. It's not because they have no feelings. It's because they do not allow feelings to rewrite their contract in the moment. They have trained their mind to obey a standard, not a sensation. Machiavelli said, "Men are so simple and so much inclined to obey immediate needs that a deceiver will never lack victims for his deceptions." If immediate needs can deceive the crowd, imagine what they can do to you inside your own mind. So, what to do? You are going to build what I call the minimum viable action. When your motivation collapses, and it will, you do the smallest version of the task that still counts as obedience. 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 1 page, 1 set, 1 phone call, 1 step. Not because it's impressive, but because it keeps the contract unbroken. Because once you break the contract, you don't just skip a task. You open the door to renegotiation. Tomorrow becomes optional. Standards become optional. And then your life becomes optional. Now here's the question that will expose whether you're ready for Sigma level discipline. Are you the kind of man who needs to feel ready before he moves? Or are you the kind of man who moves and becomes ready? Because in the next rule, I'm going to remove the need for daily willpower completely. Just a reminder, I know I have said this before. I refer to the Sigma psyche because it is an attitude that is unbreakable and is motivated by a drive to survive on his own. Because this psyche doesn't need emotional support, he needs challenges to keep him going. The more you corner him, the stronger he becomes. So when I say Sigma observer, or Sigma silence in the previous sessions, or Sigma discipline, I refer to the lone wolf who doesn't require outside support to get things done. All right, now let's get back to it. Rule 2, remove choice, install defaults. Willpower is a battery. It drains. Decision-making is a cost. Every time you decide whether to train, whether to study, whether to build, your brain spends energy. And when you're tired, stressed, hungry, distracted, irritated, your brain will choose the easiest option, then justify it with a smart-sounding excuse. Sigma discipline does not rely on daily decisions. It relies on defaults. A default is something you do automatically, without debate, like brushing your teeth. You don't sit there and negotiate with your toothbrush. You just do it. That is the goal. In warfare, the best generals don't improvise basic logistics every morning. In strategy, the best operators don't reinvent the system daily. They build structure so the mission continues even when the commander is exhausted. That is how you must treat your life. Build defaults. Machiavelli said, "The best fortress which a prince can possess is the affection of his people." Translate that into discipline. The best fortress you can possess is the affection of your routine. When your routine is loyal to you, you don't need to fight yourself every day. So what to do? You choose a fixed start time. You choose a fixed start ritual. And you choose a fixed first task. Same order, same sequence. Every day you can, you remove the question mark. Because the question mark is where weakness enters. Start ritual is not complicated. It can be as simple as water, wash face, phone off, open notes, begin. Or shoes on, step outside, walk, begin. The point is not the ritual, the point is the switch. You are teaching your nervous system, when this happens, we move. Now let me make this uncomfortable. Most men claim they want discipline, but what they actually want is freedom without structure. They want to feel powerful without living like a powerful man. So the next question is simple. What is your default right now? Because whether you like it or not, you already have defaults. Some men have the default of scrolling. Some men have the default of late nights. Some men have the default of excuses. If you don't choose your defaults, the world will choose them for you. And in the next rule, we are going to win the most important battle of the entire day, before the day even begins. Hit that like button for support and subscribe for upcoming sessions. All right, rule 3, win the first 10 minutes. The beginning of your day is a doorway. Step through it wrong, and the rest of your day follows that direction. That's not poetry, that's momentum. If your first 10 minutes are chaotic, phone, notifications, noise, emotional content, you are training yourself to be reactive. You become a man who responds to the world, not a man who commands his own mind. Sigma discipline means your day starts under your control, not your boss's control, not a stranger's post, not a headline, not a message designed to hijack your attention. Your first 10 minutes set the tone. You are the authority. Sun Tzu taught that the battle is won before it is fought. The same is true here. The disciplined man wins before temptation even arrives because he starts with structure. He begins with command, Machiavellian attitude. It is not titles that honor men, but men that honor titles. Your schedule is a title. Your plan is a title. If you do not honor it, it is just ink on paper. You honor it with the first 10 minutes. So what to do? The first 10 protocol. Phone stays off, water first. 1 minute of movement, push-ups, squats, stretching, walking, anything that tells your body, we are awake. Then 1 target task, not 10 tasks, 1. Something that moves your life forward. And if you're thinking, that sounds too simple, understand something. Simple is not easy. Simple is what works. Complexity is often what weak men hide behind because complexity allows excuses. I had a complex plan, but the conditions weren't right. Sigma discipline doesn't need conditions. Sigma discipline creates conditions. Now here's the retention point you need to hear, because it's the trap that kills men quietly. If your morning belongs to distraction, your evening will belong to regret. And regret is not a teacher. Regret is a prison. But what happens when you do everything right and you still fail under pressure? What happens when stress hits, when fatigue hits, when life punches your routine? That's where Rule 4 arrives, because Sigma discipline is not complete until disobedience has a cost.
A wake-up call. Don't let this be just a background noise. Contemplate and put into action what you are listening to. Your time is gold, and I know no one would waste their gold.
I bet that woke you up. All right, Rule 4, make disobedience expensive. People do what they are rewarded for, and they avoid what they are punished for. That is not self-help, that is human nature. If your disobedience costs you nothing, you will keep disobeying. You can tell yourself stories, you can cry about it, you can feel guilty. But if guilt has no consequence attached to it, guilt becomes entertainment. It becomes a performance. Sigma discipline is built when you attach consequence to your choices. Not emotional consequence, real consequence. A consequence that makes your nervous system take the contract seriously. In my experience, the moment you make disobedience expensive, the "I don't feel like it" voice becomes smaller. Not because you magically became stronger, but because you trained your brain like a strategist. You changed the incentives. Machiavellian attitude. Men more quickly forget the death of their father than the loss of their patrimony. Whether you like it or not, people respond to loss. Use that truth against your weak habits. Create a loss your mind respects. So what to do? Choose a penalty that matters. If you skip the task, you lose something you value. Money to a cause you don't support, a donation, a debt to a friend. Or you remove a privilege, gaming, entertainment, comfort, until the contract is repaired. The point is not cruelty. The point is seriousness. And one warning, do not turn your consequence into drama. No speeches, no journaling essays, no emotional storms. You simply pay the cost and you return to the standard. That is how a disciplined man moves. Quiet, surgical. Now, if you're thinking, but what if I fail anyway? Good. That means you're honest. Because the next rule is about building a fortress around your focus. Not a motivation speech, a fortress. Rule 5. Protect your focus like territory. Your attention is land. Your time is land. And the modern world is full of invaders. Notifications, messages, people who need favors, people who want your energy, people who want your reaction. Every one of them is a tax. And the undisciplined man pays taxes all day until he has nothing left for his own mission. Sigma discipline treats focus like territory. You do not hope your territory stays safe. You defend it. You set borders. You control access. You decide what enters your mind and what does not. Clausewitz wrote about friction, the little complications that ruin plans. Distraction is your friction. It makes simple tasks feel heavy. It makes you busy but unproductive. It makes you exhausted without progress. Sigma discipline eliminates friction by controlling inputs. And what was Machiavelli's attitude? There is nothing more difficult to take in hand, more perilous to conduct, or more uncertain in its success than to take the lead in the introduction of a new order of things. Your new order is your focus. It will be attacked by old habits, by old friends, by old impulses. Expect resistance. Lead anyway. So what to do? No notification windows. One tab rule. Environment control. You remove the triggers that pull you into reaction. You put your phone in another room. You remove the apps that steal your hours. You keep your workspace clean enough that it doesn't invite distraction. And this matters more than people realize, because discipline is not just a battle of character, it is a battle of design. When your environment is designed for weakness, you will lose. When your environment is designed for execution, you will win more often than you lose. Now let me ask you something that will hit harder than a motivational quote. Who benefits from your distraction? Because it's never you. The distracted man is easy to manipulate, easy to sell to, easy to control, easy to keep average. And the next rule is about destroying the negotiator inside you, the voice that tries to bargain your standards away. Before we go any further, add a comment showing your appreciation and support the channel grow to its potential. All right, rule 6, starve the negotiator. Inside every undisciplined man is a negotiator. It speaks in a calm voice. It sounds reasonable. It says, just today, you deserve it. You can catch up later. And it always arrives in the exact moment your discipline matters most. Sigma discipline is built when you stop negotiating, not with other people, but with yourself. Because if you negotiate with weakness, you are giving weakness a seat at the table, and weakness will always vote for comfort. You've seen this in life. You've seen people who talk themselves into mediocrity with brilliant excuses. They can explain everything. They can defend everything. They can justify everything. And yet their life does not change. That is the negotiator's signature. Words without movement. Machiavelli said, "A man who wishes to make a profession of goodness in everything must necessarily come to grief among so many who are not good." Translate that inward. A man who wishes to be kind to his weak impulses in everything will come to grief among the ruthless demands of reality. Reality does not negotiate. Why should you? So what to do? Short answers to yourself. When the negotiator speaks, you do not debate it for 30 minutes. You respond like a commander. One sentence, not today. Do it anyway. Minimum action now. Then you move. This is not about being harsh for no reason. This is about training the brain. Every time you debate, you reinforce the idea that obedience is optional. Every time you give a short command and act, you reinforce the idea that action is normal. And here is the moment you need to hear clearly. The negotiator is not your identity. It is a habit. It is a pattern. And patterns can be broken, but only if you stop feeding them with attention. If you're getting value from this, subscribe, right now so you don't miss the next episodes in the Sigma playlist. You can always unsubscribe later, but discipline is built through repetition, and this series is designed to reinforce it. Rule 7. Discipline is identity enforcement. This is the level most men never reach. They live as if discipline is something they try to do, like a hobby, like a phase. But Sigma discipline is not a phase. It is identity enforcement. It is when you decide, this is who I am, and you prove it with behavior daily. Plato spoke of the soul having parts: reason, spirit, appetite. Whether you agree with every detail or not, the lesson is timeless. A man is torn when desire rules him. A man becomes powerful when reason rules desire. Identity is the hierarchy inside you. Who is in charge? When you change identity, your choices change. Because now, skipping is not a small decision. It becomes betrayal of self. And a man who respects himself does not betray himself casually. Machiavellian attitude. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. Your identity is not your appearance. It is what you do when nobody is watching. That is what you really are. So what to do? Identity statement plus proof. Your identity statement is simple. I am a man who executes, or I do what I said I would do. Then you attach proof daily, one action that makes the identity real. And the proof must be measurable. Not a feeling, not a thought, not a plan, a completed action. This is how you turn discipline from a concept into a nervous system reality. Now I want you to reflect on something. Most men want respect. They want power. They want status. But they betray themselves daily. And then they wonder why they don't feel strong. Strength begins when you can trust yourself, when you can rely on yourself, when your own word becomes law. And that brings us to the final rule, the one that makes discipline look effortless from the outside. The one that turns you into a man who doesn't explain, doesn't perform, doesn't beg for validation, because your behavior is your authority. Rule 8. Silence builds authority, even over yourself. There is a type of man who talks about discipline all day. He posts, he announces, he explains, he makes speeches to justify his goals. He argues with strangers, he argues with family, he argues with himself. He uses words as a substitute for action. Sigma discipline is quieter. It doesn't need to be witnessed. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't need permission. Silence is not just a social strategy, it is a mental strategy. When you stop talking, you stop leaking energy. When you stop explaining, you stop bargaining. You conserve power for execution. You have probably seen this pattern. The loud man is often unstable. The calm man is often dangerous. Not because calm is magical, but because calm means control. And control is the foundation of discipline. Machiavelli's attitude. Never attempt to win by force what can be won by deception. The deeper meaning here is not about harming others. It is about strategy. Your weakness tries to win by force, by emotional pressure. Your discipline wins by design, quietly, efficiently, without drama. So here is what to do. After any slip, any failure, no self-talk, no spiraling, no shame speeches. You reset quietly and re-enter the protocol immediately. One small action, then your next scheduled action. You do not start over. You simply return to command. Because the undisciplined man treats failure like a verdict. The disciplined man treats failure like information. He adjusts, he returns, he continues. That is how a professional operates. Now we tie everything together into what I call the discipline code. And if you've stayed this far, you are already proving something most men cannot. The ability to remain with one long, structured thing without running back to distraction. That alone is discipline training. The discipline code, 5 parts that make you unbreakable. Part 1, default schedule. Fixed start time, fixed ritual, fixed first task. You remove the daily debate. You install automatic movement. Part 2, minimum viable action. When motivation fails, you do the smallest version that keeps the contract unbroken. You protect the streak because the streak protects the identity. Part 3, consequence. Disobedience costs you, not emotionally, practically. You train your nervous system to respect the contract. Part 4, environment. You defend your focus like territory. You remove invaders. You reduce friction. You design your space for execution. Part 5, identity. You enforce who you are through daily proof. No speeches, no performance, proof. And this is where many men finally understand what discipline really is. Discipline is not punishment. Discipline is freedom. Because the man who is undisciplined is not free. He is controlled by impulses, by moods, by other people's demands, by the easiest path. The disciplined man becomes free because he chooses his direction and he follows it. Now I want to hear from you, and this matters because men learn faster when they see they're not alone. Comment below, where does your discipline break most often? Is it boredom, stress, or social interference, or something similar? And if you've ever rebuilt discipline after losing it, share what worked for you. Someone reading your comment will recognize themselves and it will help them. And if you know a friend who is stuck in the same loop, always starting, never finishing, share this episode with them. Not to lecture them, just to put the idea in front of them. Sometimes one message at the right time is enough to wake a man up. Now we finish with the relapse protocol, the part that keeps you from spiraling when you slip. Because slipping is human, staying down is a choice. Relapse protocol. Do not start over. Do this. Step 1, no speeches. The moment you fail, do not narrate your failure. Do not explain it. Do not argue with it. Silence. Because words can become a hiding place. Step 2, do the smallest corrective action immediately. 2 minutes of the task, 1 page, 1 set, 1 message, 1 step. This is not about catching up. It's about re-entering command. Step 3, remove the trigger. If the trigger was your phone, move it. If the trigger was a person, set a border. If the trigger was your environment, clean it. If the trigger was late night fatigue, set a shutdown time. Discipline is not just inner strength, it is outer design. Step 4, relock the next 24 hours. You do not attempt to rebuild your whole life in one emotional moment. You simply lock tomorrow, fixed start time, fixed ritual, fixed first task. Then you execute, 1 day at a time, like a professional. If you do this, you become something rare. A man who doesn't collapse after a mistake. A man who doesn't need a perfect week to feel powerful. A man who returns to the standard, quietly, every time. And that is Sigma discipline. Not a mood, not a quote, not a personality, a system, a code, a way of living where your word becomes law and your actions become your reputation. Hold that in your mind as you walk away from this episode. You don't need more motivation. You need fewer negotiations. You need stronger defaults. You need a cost for disobedience. You need a fortress for your focus. And you need daily proof that your identity is real. Because the world does not reward men who mean well. The world rewards men who execute.
Don't forget to support our channel and come back for more sessions.